this morning's session, just to explain, the event today is supported by the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching, Learning and Higher Education. You will see quite a number of PowerPoint slides today, the reason being that we are documenting this for the forum, and it will go into their archive. And I guess in German terms you would say Forum für Hochschuldidaktik. So in recent years, teaching and learning in Ireland has, I suppose, developed a lot, and the support for it has developed a lot, and that is a very good development. Just here is one of our UCC colleagues coming in, who has done tremendous work. So I'll show you a few slides which the forum asked us to show to you at the start. Okay, to get started, our time is limited. Just briefly about myself, and quite a few know I'm based here in the department German. I've been here for quite a number of years, as I already mentioned yesterday. In my teaching, I focus on aspects of language, literature, and culture. My research is very interdisciplinary. My home field, so to speak, is German studies, but I have a distinct interest in drama and theatre studies, education, applied linguistics.
I thought I was just sitting in. Okay, many of you know, I live in the United States. I work in Indiana University in Bloomington in the Department of Germanic Studies. I'm the coordinator of the language program. We have a relatively large language program with 19 and a half, don't ask, teaching assistants who teach our undergraduate German programs, and I train them to teach. Also, like Manfred, interdisciplinary orientation in teaching and research, drama pedagogy, language teaching and learning research, sprachliche Lernforschung, applied linguistics, and cultural studies. Now you have to press the arrow.
Yes. Okay, our title, the first part of the title, Pedagogy in Transition. So I briefly looked up the Oxford Dictionary for this transition. The process or a period of changing from one state or condition to another. So, the question for the discussion later on as well, what state is pedagogy in today, in Ireland, in other countries? Why should there be a change to another state? If at all, over what period is a change to another state likely to happen? The world we live in. We're coming to the performative thing. This is the web page from UCC, the Human Resources web page. Performance management. Staff members know very well what that is about. So, staff are being reviewed at a regular basis. Their performance is being reviewed. That kind of understanding of performance is quite widespread in this country, and I'm sure in quite a few other countries. So that's me at work. When I go and I'm involved in my leisure activities and play tennis, I see performance. Everywhere, performance. All around us. We are encouraged to compete, to aim high, to be the best. I was at a forum for heads and managers recently, and someone from the Irish Sports Council was invited to give a talk. The idea being that we as academics can learn from their experience. And so what they try to do is obviously ensure that Irish athletes work to the highest standards. So what models do we have for education? Or? So, is it a good idea for education to go to physical and mental extremes to win, medal, trophy, and so on? Last week, and in the Irish Times, I read a quote from a coach by the coach of it's hard for me to interact with players who don't give themselves completely. The weak don't interest them. Very tough position. So is that a model for us in education? Or business? Is business a model for education? So business is interested in increasing input, profit. And obviously we are getting these messages also in higher education and other sectors. We are supposed to increase output, profit, this kind of understanding of performance. Science? Is science a good model for us? Science certainly has been a model in many ways in teacher education. In German there's always talk about wissenschaftliche Lehrerausbildung, but the aspect of art is maybe not coming to the fore so much. But this is what we are on about here, I think. The arts as a model. I'm quoting here from Elliot Eisner, a leading scholar in the field of education in the United States. Note what I've highlighted in red. The arts, I argue, can serve as models of what educational aspiration and practice might be at its very best. To be able to think about teaching as an artful undertaking, to conceive of learning as having aesthetic features, to regard the design of an educational environment as an artistic task. These ways of thinking about some of the commonplaces of education could have profound consequences for redesigning the practice of teaching and reconceiving the context in which teaching occurs. There's not only Elliot Eisner. Fortunately, here at the conference, we also have colleagues who are very much in support of the arts as a model, and I just mention here Mike Fleming's recent publication, The Arts in Education, or Peter Lutzkas, The Art of Foreign Language Teaching, Improvisation and Drama and Teacher Development and Language Learning. So, the second part of our title, Paving the Way Towards a Performative Teaching and Learning Culture. So let's stay with the word performative for a while. As it's stated here, the term is used to signal a vision of a pedagogy that is inspired by the arts, especially the art form of theatre. So, if we come from the theatre perspective, what about looking at teaching and learning as an event, as a performance in the theatrical sense? So, if we do that, we note, for example, elements like surprise, static experience. How much of that is there in traditional teaching is the question. What about this concept of teacher and students being directors, actors, spectators, authors? Theatre is very much a collaborative art form. In the school context, university context, why not think in terms of building ensembles, community? I'm referring here to Erika Fischer-Lichte. Many here are familiar with her work. So, to her aesthetics of the performative. And so, apparently, these are, according to her, characteristics of the aesthetics of the performative. Presence, co-presence. Yesterday, I attended a few papers, and colleagues emphasized a few of those aspects. In Adrian Haag's talk, for example, presence was mentioned several times. Spatiality, the space we work in education. I mean, we could discuss that, I suppose, at length. Are those ideal spaces we work in? Physicality, and I highlighted that. There is very little physicality still, I guess, in higher education, also at secondary level. Why not more of that? Our daughters spent quite a few years in secondary school, and when they came home, often they said, "I'm so tired, I've been sitting around the whole day." And there was quite a frustration being expressed. Sound, voice, rhythm, emergence was focused on yesterday. So, Trine Eschenauer in her talk. So, theatre as an art form we are looking at in closer detail. I also listed the other art forms, but theatre possibly is the art form which, unlike any other, can incorporate the other art forms. What about the impact of theatre? Well, the fact that I work in the German department, I can't help it to come across Goethe here and there. So I'm just referring to one of his novels, Wilhelm Meister's Apprenticeship and Travels. So a young man in that novel travels from place to place. At some point he joins a theatre company, and he is so fascinated by the experience he is going through that he keeps on writing letters. And this is from a letter to his brother-in-law, who has decided to stay at home and run the business. And he writes letters to Wilhelm all the time, "Come back home, I need your support, you have to get involved in the business." But Wilhelm has other aspirations. So a little quote, and in terms of the impact of the experience of theatre, I marked this in red here. Now, this harmonious cultivation of my nature, which has been denied me by birth, is exactly what I most long for. Since leaving thee, I have gained much by voluntary practice. I have laid aside much of my wonted embarrassment, and can bear myself in very tolerable style. My speech and voice I have likewise been intending to, and I may say, without much vanity, that in society I do not cause displeasure. But I will not conceal from thee that my inclination to become a public person and to please and influence in a larger circle is daily growing more insuperable. With this, there is combined my love for poetry and all that is related to it, and the necessity I feel to cultivate my mental faculties and taste. Thou seest well that for me all this is nowhere to be met with except upon the stage. that in this element alone can I affect and cultivate myself according to my wishes. So he's fascinated, isn't he? So this impact of theatre. So more recently there has been a research project, just to give you another perspective, was a European research project in which they looked at, I suppose, the experience of students who were involved in performative activities. And these are some of the findings. I let you read through them rather than reading them out. So the impact of theatre. More recently, one of our keynote speakers, Michaela Zambanis, has published Fremdsprachenunterricht und Neurowissenschaft. She will tell us more about it on Saturday, I'm sure. She lists good reasons for performative orientation in education, including the following: anthropological, health-related, motivational, learning theory-related, neurophysiological, etc. So there is increasing evidence for the fact that this way of working makes a lot of sense. Let's look at the word performative a bit more. So I stress here formative. So we have the emphasis on development, growth, I suppose personal development, as in the case of Wilhelm Meister. Form. The emphasis is on form, on giving shape. There's a shift of emphasis from the what to the how. These days, students, just by one click, can get any information they want from the internet. The role of the teacher has changed. I mean, just supplying them with factual knowledge won't do anymore. There needs to be more imagination in regard to the form in which we do the things we do. The wider picture. As we live in performative societies, in German Inszenierungsgesellschaft, students and teachers need to develop a performative literacy. So they need to become, I suppose, critical users also of the media, for example, in which, in a sense, they perform themselves all the time. They need also to understand how others, politicians, etc., especially those in more privileged, powerful positions, maybe use those instruments to do whatever they're doing. So what is proposed here today is that performative be used as an umbrella term to describe the various culturally specific forms of teaching and learning that derive from the performing arts. So we had a little discussion yesterday in one of the sessions about drama pedagogic, theater pedagogic, theater and education. Very good. So I guess maybe an umbrella term is useful to bring together these different orientations. This is my perception, my understanding, that there seem to be increasing signs for it to become a key term, possibly, question mark, new paradigm, like we had with communicative in the area of pedagogy, modern languages pedagogy. We don't have the time to visit theory very much this morning, but many here are aware of the fact that the term performative comes up a lot in linguistics, gender studies, aesthetics. That's the theory level. What we know certainly is that the practical field has become very colorful. There's so many interesting projects, so much is happening. And this is a quote from a German philosopher, which I always found quite interesting, intriguing. Die Dignität der Praxis ist unabhängig von der Theorie. Die Praxis wird nur mit der Theorie eine bewusste. So, in other words, practice has its own dignity.
Well, what is dignity?
Würde.
Okay.
And it's only that practice, if the theory comes into play, becomes a more reflective practice, and that's obviously what we are interested in very much. And Susanne takes over.
Yes, in terms of reflective practice, I taught a seminar on pedagogy this past semester at Indiana University in Germanic Studies, a graduate seminar, where 8 participants from different countries, 2 German, 1 Japanese, 1 Russian, the rest Americans came together and tried out practice, in actual fact, tried to put practice into performance, and they were also all teachers or teaching novices to teachers at the university. And one of the questions that came up again and again was the question: can we reach pedagogical change through teaching with performative approaches, and if yes, what changes are we aiming for? Okay. And that was actually also closely connected to post-method pedagogy, a model that has been proposed by Kumara Vadivelu from India. And post-method pedagogy is not, post-method is not like an old method in a new guise, or just yet another good method, but it's more like a reorientation of thinking about the whole, how do we teach? And it's not so much asking what is the best method to teach X, Y, Z, but a change in attitude how to think about it. And Kumara Vadivelu proposes 3 parameters for post-method pedagogy that take us away from the old method discourse, or the very old quest for the right method. And one is particularity. Particularity means that every teaching and learning has to take into consideration the socio-economic conditions on the ground where the teaching takes place. Now this sounds like, well, of course, I mean, as teachers we would say of course, but in the old days, especially in the wake of like early communicative language teaching, so many Western books, teaching books were exported lock, stock and barrel to places in Asia, let's say India, and all of a sudden they had to teach communicatively, whether kind of with very little connection to actually the conditions of the ground. So that's particularity. The second one is practicality, that goes towards the teachers. Teachers are viewed as reflective practitioners. They're not so much like, again, it used to be theorists at, I don't know, universities, they came up with methods. And then these methods were translated into teaching books And these teaching books were given to teachers, and the teachers had to teach with the teaching books. And now, and Cork says, a complete reorientation teaches as reflective practitioners who knows best what is going on the ground, who knows their students, who knows the teaching conditions, who knows the room. That's the teachers themselves. So in a way, teachers have to be enabled to practice what they theorize and to theorize what they practice. Therefore, they become independent agents, and the hierarchy is basically done away with. The last point is possibility. Possibility takes place at the intersection of learning and language. So in a way, the learners have to be, there has to be the possibility of learners to integrate their identity with the learning matter and into the learning process. So yes, the intersection of language and learner identities. Right. So in my seminar on drama pedagogy, we tried often to not only read and discuss theory, but also try to see if we practice to perform theory and also to perform results. And this is one of the moments where the group is negotiating, trying to find a way to perform certain results of the seminar. And they eventually decided, because there were 8 people, they all had different research focuses, like autonomy, authenticity, identity, critical language education, holistic learning, intercultural learning, and they ended up spanning a net, like a multi-dimensional net between themselves, putting keywords in the middle to signify the connections between the different disciplines, and this is one of the things that they came up with. Okay. Yes, and the second question that came up again and again was, how can drama experiences in the classroom be recorded, quantified, and validated beyond anecdotal evidence? Now, we are all full of anecdotal evidence, and anecdotal evidence is important because that is what we experience, and that is what drives us on. And then there's the thing of like, okay, the academy is thinking, okay, how about like quantifiable results? How do we record this, whatever? And we cannot, or I cannot, or we cannot give you a full answer, but I would like to end my part with 2 quotes here that are from 2 student papers, 2 papers that came off the seminar that deal with exactly that, and the 2 quotes actually also really happen to fit very well with each other. And one is the longer one. I'll also read it aloud. I realized that the goals that we strove towards in incorporating drama techniques into the language lesson were the very things we fled from as researchers. The spontaneity we sought to encourage in our students became chaos when planning a study. In the classroom, we encourage our students to incorporate their personal experiences and perspectives into the drama. In a seminar, personal experience is named anecdote and viewed with suspicion when communicated in the form of an article. In order to write about our experiences with authority, we must detach ourselves from our experiences. Writing this essay is a slow process because with every word I question how much need to put into it. Which identity must I perform to talk about my experiences as a student and as a teacher? Does naming them mine diminish them in the eyes of others? What role must I play? Is relating my experience a closed or open-ended scenario, and who decides? The second quote, almost like a little bit of an answer. Research can never fully represent a complex human interaction, and that is as it models, examples, and stories, whether verbal or not, are all we have to live by in any case. The more stories we share, and the more closely we perceive and interact with other people's stories, the richer our world becomes. This world of constantly shifting forms where we feel less safe, less on solid ground, but more connected and whole if we let ourselves be moved to.
This is a handy little piece. First time I use it. Believe it or not. It's really good. Just in summary, a few points. So the concept of performative teaching and learning is based on the model of the art, performing art, aims at deeper learning, involves the learners and teachers, head, heart, hands, and feet, aims at meaningful and potentially transformative experience. In terms of performative teaching and learning, I think there have been very interesting developments in the German system, and we will hear more by Florian Pasten at the conference. In the context of modern languages, we can note there's an impressive range of performative genres. I usually distinguish between small-scale and large-scale forms. And as mentioned yesterday in some session, the word continuum is important. What is small can become big. What is big can give inspiration also for what can be realized within the classroom setting. In terms of large-scale forms, here are a few listed. I mean, the typical one is, and many of us have been involved in that, we are staging a play with students, secondary level, at university level. So we have a script, or it's just devised theater. The students develop the play themselves. On the right, impro theater projects. We will get a taste of that by Arctic tonight. So that has become a very interesting form of engaging students, and Arctic is more or less just back from a tour through South America, where they have worked with lots of students, and they will talk about their experience, I'm sure. Theatre and education projects, I guess Cyclone, we will come across Cyclone on Saturday evening, and we'll get a bit of a taste of what that is all about. Then there are various other large-scale forms. I won't go much into them further for time reasons, just theatre pedagogy workshops. So more or less a translation here of theater pedagogic workshops. I remember an article by Bärbel Jokschis where she describes, and Doris Krohn, where you describe your project at the Gorki Theatre in Berlin. So in the theatre they've been working with German and foreign language students. So the small-scale forms you are all familiar with, I'm sure, most of you. And we are working with these small-scale forms within the units we have at our disposal, the time we have at our disposal. For some, that is just 40 minutes, 45 minutes, or it's a double hour, maybe 1.5 hours or 2 hours. And so what can we do within that time? So some of the small-scale forms are listed here: still images, mind scenes, hot seating, teacher and role, and so on. So very basic techniques. And we thought as we are stuck for time, that we are just trying out maybe one of the basic techniques. And before we do so, here a little quote which you also find at the back of the program. It's a text which I seem to return to again and again. It's by Christoph Ransmayr, Austrian writer. He writes about a stage by the sea, and that's not far from Cork. O'Shea's stone stage had no roof, not a single wall that might shelter it from wind and rain, no curtain, no flight of steps. Hardly raised above the pasture surrounding it, performers could step onto it simply by clambering over gorse and grass. And with this one stride could leave the whole world behind them. They entered into a melody, a ballad, a burst of applause, or laughter, in which their life suddenly seemed new and different, transfigured into chords and words. I suppose just the transformative potential, the performative experience here is of interest. And the simplicity of the setting, just some platform in the landscape. You don't need much. You just need your bit of space. And then what you need is one stride. And with one stride, you can leave the whole world behind you. And I would invite just a few here who are willing to do that, to leave the world of this morning behind you, come into the space and do a little bit of practical work. Very simple. Nothing to fear. You're all familiar with that. It's just that for this particular session, we would like to give a taste of one technique one could typically use in this classroom setting. Okay? Good. Okay. So that's fine. If you could turn the other way, that's where the cameras are. So we have to work quickly because we are running out of time, and you all are familiar, obviously, with the still image technique. I go into the middle here, I stand there and form a picture. I would ask one of you to enter into the space and add to the picture, okay? And then we take it from there. Okay, right? Thank you. Very good. Stay safe. You guys work so fast. I hadn't expected this at all. I wanted only one person. And all of a sudden we have my God. So we go back one more time and we just leave one person at the time being. Okay? And then I go out of the picture, somebody else comes in, so that we have just pictures with two in the image. I'll do another one maybe. I go. Anybody else? Can you do a new picture? Okay. Can you hold the picture? Can you hold the picture? And now, as a next step, obviously, in terms of language teaching, somebody could begin to describe what is happening in this scene. Could anybody describe the scene? What's happening there?
There's a woman on the floor.
Yeah.
And someone's holding a bucket.
Very thirsty.
Okay.
We have a lot of cheese.
Very good. Okay. One of you can go out. Silvia, I think. Anybody else? Just to mention quickly now, obviously what we can do, we can enter the world of the thoughts of the dentist. So, what's going on in your head, dentist? Can you say a sentence or two?
This is a really bad one. I'm going to have to see her again and charge her double.
Very good. Okay. Happy to, thank you. Teeth are okay now. Anybody else? Okay. Hold it. Hold it. Can a third person go in? Thank you. Third person add to this. Okay. Okay. Any comment? What's happening?
Peace.
Yeah. Okay. Fourth person. Okay. Any comment there?
What do you think you're doing?
Very good. Okay. Can you all go back into the church? Thanks very much. So, for time reasons, we can't expand on it. A very basic technique, still image can be used in so many different ways. So let's try and link it quickly to today's event or the conference event. Why not have two groups and you guys have to work a bit fast, I'm afraid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe. Could you form an image about what you understand as a traditional way of teaching and learning? Could you form an image of my dream vision of performative teaching and learning? The two images are there? Okay. Now we involve the audience to comment on the two pictures. Hopefully you can see something from wherever you sit. Any comments? Can we characterize the traditional first and then go to the other one? Quickly, some keywords.
Boring.
What? Boring? Yeah.
Fördernd und vereinzeltes Lernen.
Yeah, supporting groups.
I have to think as a romanticist, which is what I am, that with progressive Universalität. These guys are trying to figure out what they're doing. It's the process. And I don't think they know where they're going necessarily.
Okay.
And over there, it's the finished products that are being taken apart.
Okay. Very good.
But I have a critique. This is too closed.
Too close. Yeah.
Conspiracy.
We are not involved.
Conspiracy.
We can open the document
It's like conspiracy.
Okay, any final comments?
Difficult and easy.
Which
Easy, difficult.
That's easy.
This was in 10 seconds, and this was
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how many.
Yeah. But maybe also what is in there, it still needs some time to tease out really what the performative teaching and learning is about. So that gives us a sense of that as well. Thank you very much.